Gary Oldman. We celebrate him.
Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
That's right. We don't talk about it, but we celebrate it. A final word. A final word is a final word. You can't come back and say it again.
If you want to join our Patreon, we might release it later on. Yeah. It's okay. You learn. We all do.
Fans are called the greats, I believe we said.
Speaking of the fans, shout out to the fans. If you're listening right now and this made it into the cut, you're above average.
Welcome to the Greatest Movies of All Time podcast. Each episode, we've been called upon to put in the hard work and debate and declare what are in fact the greatest movies of all time. My name is Jesse, and this week I'm joined by Gabriel.
Hello, folks.
And JB.
Hey, everyone.
And we are the Council of the Anointed. We didn't choose this job. It chose us.
Yeah.
Right? That's how this thing works. Today we'll be discussing The Five Bloods, the latest Spike Lee joint. And as always, we'll be wrapping up the show with our betting games and having other fun antics. But before we do any of that, we have some business we have to take care of at the top of the show before we get into this. Speaking of the betting games, at the end of our last episode, Gabriel was our first to clinch a 4 wins victory. And that's right. It was, I think it was trending on Twitter a little bit. What that really means is he gets to champion a film that he is going to declare as one of the greats. We're going to end on the episode with that. The other piece of his win, we have a letterboxd.com account. It's letterboxd.com/greatest movies. And right now, as of the recording of this, it's our top 4 favorite films is left blank. In a minute, I'm going to turn it over to him to discuss and share what will those 4 films be. And they will stay there until someone else unseats him. Or if he wins again before JP or myself, he can choose to change those or leave the 4 the same. He can, it's the top 4. The first thing anybody sees when they go to our Letterboxd account, will see these 4 films. So, Gabriel, what do we got? I'll start updating it as you speak.
Yeah, so to preface this, these are not my 4 favorite films of all time by any means.
Okay.
These are what I'm calling my quarantine 4.
All right, I like the approach.
These are the 4 films that I've either returned to during quarantine as sort of warm blankets to offer comfort, or one that kind of reminds me a bit of what it feels like to be quarantined. So for my quarantine 4, one of which is a film we have discussed on this show, is Knives Out.
Okay.
One of the greats.
It's one of the greats. I apologize. We are supposed to say that when it's mentioned. One of the greats.
Right. That's a lighthearted, fun romp. We've discussed that. I'm not going to go into any further detail. But
we have a whole episode about it.
That's right. That is one that I have gone back to and have found pleasure in that while being stuck at home. Another one that has brought me great joy on multiple occasions is a little Taika Waititi film, which we briefly mentioned on this
Taika
podcast, called Hunt for the Wilder People.
Oh yeah, you've recommended. I know JB is a fan. I've yet to see it.
This is one that I do believe at some point we should visit and have a discussion about whether or not it is one of the greats. But for right now, it is going to go in the top 4 on our Letterboxd.
Yeah, people go to the account. They're going to assume it's one of the greats.
I'm excited.
And they, you know what? I hope they do. Number 3 on that is going to be Parasite, the Bong Joon-ho film. Again, one we have mentioned when we did discuss Snowpiercer
Yes.
a little earlier in this initial run of the podcast. That's another one I know we did mention we may come back to. And
we throw that name around a lot as a potential great.
So I'm gonna leave it there. It did win Best Picture, last year. So I think that's the one that there are parts of that film that very much remind me of kind of this claustrophobia sort of feeling of being trapped in one's own home. Granted, I mean, in Parasite, that's not where they're trapped, but I think, yeah, this is one of my quarantine 4, and my last one is the 2020 film, The Invisible Man.
Ooh.
Released by Blumhouse and starring Elizabeth Moss. That is one that I watched during quarantine and found it to be just far more than I expected it to be, and really, really enjoyed it. So I would recommend folks check that one out if they haven't.
Wow. Okay. So it has been updated. I think I can pull it here. I was trying to. Do you guys see my screen? I was just sharing it for you guys to see. Is it there? Is it gone?
It was there.
No. Yeah. Maybe. There
It
it
was
is.
there.
There it is. So those are good picks. It's interesting. It's one could go any direction with the top 4 slot of the favorite films on the letterbox.com/greatest movies. And I like your route.
Yeah, no, thanks. I do. I went back and forth on which direction to go. I almost exclusively did kind of a top 4 comedies to watch to keep yourself sane in quarantine. But I'm happy with my picks.
I think there's a little bit of something for everyone on that list. It's a good, well-rounded list.
It's a little all over the place for sure.
As it should be. As it should be.
That's how I like my films.
All right. That's cool. All right. So those are locked in until it gets unseated, and we'll just kind of keep going this little dance as we keep doing our
current standings.
Yeah.
Right, Jesse, you have 2. Is that correct?
I have 2 points.
I have 2. JB has 1.
JB has 1, and you'll be back at 0.
I'm back where I started.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's cool. And so, like we said, at the end of this podcast, before we do today's bet, we'll also be concluding the second half of your winnings, which will be you'll champion a film. You're going to give us a short little presentation as to why it's one of the great. JB and I will have our homework. We'll watch the film, and then in the following episode, we'll discuss and vote to see if it's in there. We already know it has 1 vote. Just needs one of us to get on the other side of it.
I got a couple of bullet points.
Cool. That's right. You do have the part of the requirement is as a 1 slide visual aid in the format of PowerPoint or Keynote or something to that effect. That we can also share and take with us to have on as a reference guide as we watch that film.
Right.
Like I said,
So
So in the meantime, let's get on to it. You're right. Yeah. Let's talk about things we've watched. Let's get on with the show. We got a journey to take today. JB, you watched anything lately that might not be a great, but
Yeah. I didn't watch too many movies this past week, but in the spirit of the 5 Bloods, I went ahead and Netflix was releasing a lot of content geared around the Black culture, and I watched Imperial Dreams. It was a Netflix original. It was John Boyega, Keke Palmer, Paul Walter Hauser, who went on to do Richard Jewell as Richard Jewell. And it was just, it was a well-directed film, great story, made you slightly uncomfortable, which is good. It's a story of a father struggling to make it with his son and bring his son out of a place that might feel like they're trapped in a vicious cycle of poverty. And so yeah, it was a little more serious. It was good, and I feel that perhaps the story was a little painted to make it a little more digestible for a Netflix audience. I don't know, but watching also the 5 Bloods in comparison, I was like, wow, this movie is far and beyond what Imperial Dreams was. But Imperial Dreams was a good watch.
let's switch over to see if we can see a film that might be a great this week. The recently released Netflix Spike Lee film, The Five Bloods. Kind of let's kind of take let's before we've as people who might not have been caught up with our episodes, we vote closer to the beginning now. But before we do that, let's kind of each go around and give kind of our just general thoughts about it. I don't know if Gabriel, if you want to give the quick little
let's do a quick summary. So this is as Jesse mentioned, this is the most recent Spike Lee joint, fully produced by Netflix. They pretty much gave him carte blanche to make a film exactly the way he wanted to make it. It is about 4 African American vets who reunite in Vietnam to collect the gold they hid during their tour in Vietnam, while also seeking to exhume and return the remains of their fallen squad leader. This film takes a few different twists and turns along the way. It feels part action movie, part action drama, part dark comedy, and very much rooted in I think gravity of drama, but also this realm of satire. I think is the best I can do in summarizing and describing.
Which is good, because it's even which I did enjoy, but it's more precise than say even like the trailer kind of reveals. The trailer kind of paints a kind of different movie.
The trailer paints a psychedelic landscape, right? Almost as if we're gonna get a film that's set in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Like circa, Vietnam War. Rather
it starts off with that kind of psychedelic world, swirl the music. Which again, I like when a trailer is a little more misleading and mysterious.
And this one fits the bill.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so JB, you want to kind of start with some thoughts?
It was graphic. That stands out in the movie. Something when I was watching it that I bring back to a conversation that Gabriel had spoken about with Lighthouse specifically, and was this idea that you remember the movies that make you uncomfortable. And I think this movie made me uncomfortable, and I loved it. Absolutely. I loved the discomfort. So the graphicness, I think, played well. I mean, this was a movie about the Vietnam War on top of other, there's just so many layers to this movie. Racial injustice, oppression, Vietnam War, oppression across different cultures, what it means to be loyal, these dark, serious human themes that are universal, but then also, Spike Lee takes it to the microscopic and sort of like focuses on different populations and how these themes affect the different populations. So those were big and prevalent. It was a movie rich with themes. I loved the surreal flashbacks. And I say surreal because he uses the same actors and he doesn't try too hard to like make them younger.
Yeah,
I don't think he does at all.
No, he doesn't at all.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things I absolutely want to talk about, because that was something that stood out to me, particularly in thinking about this film versus The Irishman. Both produced by Netflix, both auteurs in cinema. But the choice here to let these men live out their memories, unable to kind of see themselves as their younger selves. They're seeing, and that's the way I viewed that. I viewed that as him very purposely only able to see themselves in their flashbacks, in their memories, as they currently see themselves. Right?
Yeah, same. That was my thought too. I thought it was a good artistic choice. Good. I mean, it's as someone who hasn't seen The Irishman, but it was a thought. Like the conversation about The Irishman was, oh, look how they de-aged these actors, and now you've totally avoided that conversation because that's not the focus of this film. And you've at the same time, like you said, I think when we all think back to your memories, especially adult memories, you see yourself in a certain way. You don't see your younger self, you see you. And I thought
it's hard to see yourself any other way,
Yeah.
right? Like, and so I think that was very purposeful. I didn't think that was less jarring to me than in trying to watch The Irishman, how jarring it felt to see like an altered Robert De Niro. I also love the fact that obviously like their fallen comrade, played by Chadwick Boseman, who the naming here, right, is one that I felt was very pointed and
Yes.
purposeful, and taking that Norman character and calling him Storm and Norman, right? And when we think back to the first Gulf War and Storm and Norman Schwarzkopf, but freezing him in time, right? He's remembered exactly at that age that they all were, and that juxtaposition, right, of the fallen brother versus these present day like soldiers revisiting Vietnam as civilians to recover his body. Just I thought that was a really, really excellent just stroke of genius on Spike Lee's part to avoid having to cast lookalikes or younger like doubles to play these characters.
And at the end of the film, they include an image, like a still photograph of the actors de-aged, and you see it, and it's almost like, I mean, it serves the purpose of the Five Bloods, kind of when they were last together, per se. But then I think it's also Spike Lee's little nod to say, because Spike Lee is not subtle. It's his, nothing he does is to be subtle. I think it's also his nod to say, look, this is what this would have been like if I had de-aged these actors, and this is why I didn't. This is another reason why I didn't do it.
I think it's also a nod to the notion of photographs and memories,
Mm-hmm.
right?
No, I agree. I think it works both ways.
Photographs are what they are, and they do capture a moment in time. But your memories are still shaded by the way you view yourself when you're reminiscing.
No, exactly. Yeah, and this, like I said, it just has that as a movie that's full of commentary, social commentary, and other pieces. It's him saying, look, I could have de-aged him if I wanted to. I didn't. I'll say this on my thoughts on this movie. I agree with everything you guys say. I do feel it's a very messy movie. And Spike Lee has a lot going on, obviously. And as I said, he's not subtle in what he's doing. I felt it was a film that it jumped around from like two extremes always. Like you said, it's kind of funny and then it's kind of serious. Is this entertainment or is this education? Is this an educational film? Is this an entertainment film? Here's some really high budget filming, and then the various uses of the flashbacks, and I think he used like 16 millimeter. He does different perspectives, so it's very high budget, and then other times it almost looks, I mean, part of it, especially the Vietnam flashbacks, are supposed to look like they're filmed on sort of a 16 millimeter type camera.
Slightly grainy,
but they almost look like cheap and amateurish as well, which, Spike Lee, he knows what he's doing. But, like the helicopter scene crashing, some of it almost looks, it's like I said, just a little not as smooth as it could be. But then at the same time, you flip to these other pieces, and it's greatly shot, greatly put together films. You have very serious monologues and dialogue from characters. And then you have lines like, "We don't need no stinking badges," in there, which is these sort of corny dad jokes almost. You have, what's his name? Isaiah Whitmore, I think, from The Wire. And he does his trademark shit in the movie as well. But again, it's just a movie of extremes, and it's I think it's Spike Lee just wanting to throw everything in there.
I totally agree. Is absolutely messy. I think it's messy and chaotic on purpose. I think it's a direct reflection of kind of the society we're currently living in, which is very messy and chaotic and uncertain. And I think that's part of his nod to, right, this through thread of the African American experience going all the way back to, we get a civil rights movement. We have this promise that remains unkept. We have these people who dedicate themselves to go and fight on behalf of their country against people who were not their oppressors, right? That they then become the oppressors of. And you piece that in against the modern political landscape in America. And it's messy. It's so damn messy. And I think that is an artistic choice on his part. Right? I do think he jumps around. I do think he plays in space. One of the things he's always done is played with pop culture references. And I think those unsubtle nods to these individuals and their film or television careers, right? I mean, we're talking Clark Peters from The Wire, Isaiah Whitlock from The Wire, both give solid performances. I absolutely love Delroy Lindo. This may be my favorite Delroy Lindo performance. I mean, he's the one who poses the most juxtaposed character to what you expect him to be. And he's the one who descends into this almost Shakespearean madness, right? Like he's the one who starts to question his own identity. And you feel like that's not something that's all of a sudden happening. It's something that's been a part of his life since Vietnam and since he lost Norman. And it's just now, this moment in time, where he's having to reckon with that. So I think you nail it, right? It is messy. It is chaotic. But I feel like the way that I viewed that was an active choice Spike Lee made in trying to tell this story that is so layered and so complex and messy.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, JB said it too. It's like there's so much going on in this film, so many layers, so many themes, and it is a lot to take out. I think the performances are top notch. My other piece that I thought was interesting too is like the choice of music. Sometimes I thought like the Marvin Gaye stuff was just perfect, especially like the a cappella track of Marvin Gaye in there. But then there's other times where it just felt like, what is this music? Like, what is this very like stock? And again, it kind of plays to the pop culture piece, the things we're used to seeing with Vietnam films and newsreels. But this sort of like over the top stock type orchestra type film music, and you're like, come on, Spike, what are you doing? But again, when I say it's messy, I think it works. It's just you find yourself constantly moving. I do feel. Again, it's some of the like a lot of the pop culture references, a lot of the flashbacks to actual either individuals or pictures when someone gets mentioned. And sometimes I think it's done super effectively, especially at the beginning of the film, at the end of the film. When it pops up throughout the middle, occasionally I'm like, okay, we get it. I love it when it's, I mean, I don't love it, but I think it's super effective when it's the images of brutality and social unrest and social injustice and various civil rights leaders speaking. It's great. When it cuts to other folks, I'm like, sometimes I feel Spike could have, sometimes less is more with that. But again, and that's what I mean when it's messy, it's not subtle, but it's a movie I enjoyed watching from the beginning to the end. And I love the fact that also this gold heist movie adventure film that gets a little slapsticky as well. And I love that. And so, yeah, I haven't heard anything I disagree with either on these pieces. I felt like, yeah, Spike Lee has made a complicated film. No question. JB, kind of other thoughts? And then I say, let's vote.
Yeah. Speaking on the gold heist part, this movie is long. This movie is complicated and layered. And at the same time, you could take out a bunch of those layers. You could like cut out a bunch of it. And he still made a great, just like a fun film. I think like the way you edit this film, you could take what's there and create like 2 or 3 different films out of it, which is so cool. My brain was spinning trying to keep up, sometimes pausing and rewinding and having to watch some pieces again. So kudos to Spike.
All right.
The wild thing for me here is at no point did I feel like I was watching a 2 hour and 35-minute long film. The pacing is so just brisk, and it's so well crafted that it's I feel like that combined with, like you said, Jesse, those like really kind of jarring. It's like, why is this in here? Like, why is he cutting to this now? I feel like that's all part of him purposely trying to make you as the viewer feel unsettled. He doesn't want you to get too comfortable with this film at any point in time, because he wants you to take this journey. He wants you to experience those ups and downs and those twists and turns. He wants you to feel unsettled as you watch this, despite the fact that you feel close to these characters, right? You relate to these characters, but he's constantly just trying to jar you to make sure that you're paying attention.
Yeah.
And it is a bit over. It's a bit over, like heavy-handed, and like he's like hammering you over the head. But Jesus Christ, like how long have we been dealing with issues of race in this country, and people still aren't seeing the point? Like they're still not getting the point.
And I agree. I think that was the thought I definitely had, this idea of like the Vietnam War and these veterans who are coming back, and hey, the war never ends. It's always there with you. And then when it comes to the civil rights movement, never ended. It was never resolved. These ongoing issues in America haven't ended. And I do agree, those cuts and those callbacks are to remind you, hey, we're still fighting these battles. These wars are still happening, and we're seeing what it's done to these guys. And then at the same time, there's this idea of like the whole like chasing gold and chasing this American dream and money and riches, and is this idea of equality will ever be achieved, just like we'll ever get the gold. I think that piece is in there as well. It's like, why is it a gold heist? Well, I think and that these guys who know that they're victims to it all as well.
They're victims, and then they're perpetrators of oppression. And how do they reconcile that, right? You very clearly have the Paul character played by Delroy Lindo, who is clearly suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. And you've got these other guys to varying degrees who their lives are not fully settled, right? There's so much uncertainty. I mean, Clark Peters, right? He finds out in this film in the first 20 minutes that he has a daughter he never knew he had, right? There's so much packed into this 2 hours and 35 minutes, and it's done in a way that never feels overlong. It never feels like it overstays its welcome. It does feel heavy-handed, but it's the bookends, right, of the archival footage. I think those pieces are so important to, and again, it's Spike Lee driving home this message, right? He's like, I'm gonna hit you over the head with it at the front, and I'm gonna hit you over the head with it at the end. But it really drives home this point that like this is a promise unkept, right? And this is a dream deferred, and that's where we still are. That's where we were in the 1960s, in the 1950s. That's where we are today in 2020.
Yeah. All right, let's vote. So sometimes the second half of the conversation brings up other pieces. So let's see where we're at. We all kind of hold up our answers here. We'll kind of explain ourselves.
Going great.
All right, Gabriel, great. JB, got a great. Triple great. And I got a great. So it's a clean sweep. I think I could tell by the path of our conversation that it's a great. I'll say this, to me in some ways too, this, like, for me, I'm tasked with this idea of, we have to figure out what the greatest movies of all time are. And this helped me understand, greats don't have to be perfect movies. They can be messy films. They can, they hit at the right moments. They don't always have to be subtle. They don't have to be understood by everybody. It's just, they have this piece and they're important works. And I think this is an important film. And I think, to circle back to you, Gabriel, I think Delroy Lindo he makes this film better than I think it might have been without him. His performance is mind-blowing in this film. Not only, I think, as he's written on the page, as, like you said, this conflicted character who is a Trump supporter, who doesn't like who's anti-immigrant, who struggles with so much things. And instead of really mocking him or making him a caricature in this film, Spike Lee makes him the most complex character in this movie. And then Delroy gives the performance of his lifetime. And I think in some way, he's out of the other Bloods that are left, they've all, though they're still struggling in life, they've kind of fallen into this almost like acceptance and complacency in life. And Delroy's this guy who's saying, I'm still struggling with everything. That's why I'm wearing this "Let's Make America Great Again" hat. That's why I'm this guy. I'm trying to, he's struggling with relationship with his son. Every time, even the way he would blink or roll his eyes, his facial expressions, I could have watched him for another 2.5 hours in this film.
Yeah, it's that relationship with his son, and then this back and forth. Despite the fact, like, these are the men he went through hell with, right? They're the men he felt closest to as a young man, in fighting in this war, and he still goes back and forth with them on issues of ideology and notions of selfishness versus selflessness, and it's such a complex performance that really, like, it really could have been just this caricature, right? It could have been this, oh wow, it's the single black, like, Trump supporter. It's the one guy you see positioned on the podium, like, in, behind Trump when he has a rally.
Yeah, the movie makes the one little jab at that with the arrow at the guy cutting to Trump. But you're right. They don't take that route with Delroy.
No, he's the one who ends up with all these single camera, like, breaking of the fourth wall monologues, right? And they become the central piece of the third act of the film, right? They're very key to kind of him starting to work through these issues he has with identity and these demons, right? Of the PTSD he suffered from war and the way he's lived his life since, and the broken relationship he has with his son, and his inability to feel any kind of connection to anyone other than the connection that he lost when Norman died.
Yeah.
And when Norman died, that was his heart. Like, that was the place where he shut himself off from ever being able to give a shit or care about anyone else in the world. And that character it's so well acted by Lindo. It's so well crafted and so delicately handled, despite the fact that, to your point, like, this is a messy film. But it is so expertly handled in the way Lee interjects these fourth wall breaking monologues and the letter reading and every other piece of kind of that arc of, like, this character's arc.
So, JB, what brought that into the great? I mean, we talked a bit about it, but kind of what was that pushed you to the great side?
Salt and the Vaseline. We've been talking about Delroy Lindo a lot. That monologue, it was just really good. Talk about Shakespearean madness. If you just watch that as itself, in the movie, it was awesome. And yeah, that was one of the things that stuck out early on, was that they essentially that's what it was for me, was taking this idea of, like, given Spike Lee's very obvious jabs at Trump, but then also putting a Trump sympathizer in the movie and giving the sympathizer, like, the most complex emotional background, was really nice. Because I find it easy to believe that this is actually probably happening with, like, current Trump supporters. That, like, this is a character that does exist in our general population and might be pretty common. And so it made me think about larger things, not just the movie. It made me think about, okay, how do these characters apply to, like, general life? How might they appear in our everyday life? And I think the Trump sympathizer character that Lindo portrayed and those aspects made me think about the current political climate. And so there was that, and there was the grotesque images of the Vietnam War, and those made me think about life on the grander scale. And just every time that there was this like cut scene or this grotesque image or this even panning between the ratios between the widescreen versus like the 60 millimeter, just
Yeah, it's like 6-minute film. Yeah, down there, right? 4:3.
Yeah, I don't know the terms, but it happened. The screen changes sizes.
Yeah.
The aspect ratio shifts.
Which even in that, in some of the transitions, it was nice. You would watch it stretch and change.
It was a nice little touch. It made me think about like you couldn't do that with movies previously. This is a modern technology, being able to just like doctor the film to where you can just switch ratios in the middle of the movie. Just super exciting to a lot of thoughts happening in my brain when watching it. And then I liked, this is a movie that I read part of the plot synopsis ahead of time because it was a longer movie and I wanted to know what I was getting myself into. And so some of the lines of the characters, even early on, knowing what was about to happen later in the movie, I was like, oh yeah, this is excellent writing as well. Like not only is there great character development, but the way that there's foreshadowing and the way that lines flow together and create the anticipation for events later on. It was wonderful. And I have one correction to make. Imperial Dreams did not have Paul Walter Hauser. That was this movie. I got them confused earlier.
All right. Well, people can stop writing their emails.
Transparency.
We got it.
Corrections, man.
Yeah, we're all about integrity at this show. Number one.
Speaking of the Paul Walter Hauser character, right, who is part of Melanie Thierry's like group of action-minded, humanitarians. Like I mean, they're there to try to snuff out and remove these remaining landmines from the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
She's French, right? Jean Reno's character, Desroches, he's French.
Yeah.
Before the Americans entered Vietnam, it was a French colony, right? And so this to me was something like, as a student of history, that I found to be almost this direct kind of or indirect way of directly talking about American involvement overseas and the wars we fought and our colonialism and imperialism, and the present day leadership we have in place in this country. And we see this character who is very dedicated to humanitarian aid, right? In the Hetty character, and she very quickly, right, presents herself in a way that most of the Bloods like warm to her, and they find, particularly Paul's son David, right? They start to form this bond and relationship. Simultaneously, the person who is double crossing them, right, who promised them, like he was their key to getting paid, right? He was their key to being able to convert the gold and then be able to receive the money on the back end, right? The same kind of promise America offered them when they were soldiers in Vietnam. This is the guy offering them that promise. He's like, on the back end of this, you're going to be taken care of. He's the one who turns and oppresses them, right? He's the one who brings in mercenaries to take them out and to remove them from the equation so he can take all the gold for himself. Those pieces, which are very small, right? They're not the key pieces of the film. They're the ones that I think point to just the systemic oppression and the occasional humanitarian effort of whites in society to try to understand and relate to or deny and oppress African American like development and growth and prosperity.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I mean, Yeah, I mean that's why I said too. Like watching this, like, is this it's obviously entertainment. Is this educational too? Like, there's so much going on here, and so
Both.
much. Exactly, and that was my in result. Like, with that as well, because yeah, there's so much little pieces in there. If you kind of even look into the dialogue and things people say, it's all there.
I mean, as much as we've talked about like how heavy-handed a lot of this film is, there is a lot of subtlety in this. There are a lot of subtle nods to, historic Hollywood cinema, right? There are nods to older films, right?
No, yeah, it's almost like I wish. I mean, again, I think he does really good films, but it's at times you wish it's some of the same techniques that Tarantino does, but Tarantino's doesn't have that same amount of depth and layers that are happening here in this film. That I wish sometimes Tarantino could go a deeper into his films versus kind of the more surface level in his. Tarantino's very concerned with Hollywood and that lifestyle in the world he knows, but I did see some elements of a kind of two masters of the craft when it comes to directing and incorporating pop culture within their films and history. But Spike Lee just saying, but here's how you do it to give some substance and actually mean something as well.
Yeah, I mean, they're clear. They're nods here, right, to Apocalypse Now. They're nods to the Treasures of Sierra Madre. I mean, you mentioned earlier, right, the use of the line, "We don't need no stinking like badges."
Yeah, he says we don't need no stinking official badges.
That is right. Like that's a nod to that film. There's so many little just again they're overt, and then these more subtle references to films from the genre. I mean, it almost the last like 20-30 minutes almost feels like a blaxploitation version of like Rambo.
It does. It's like Rambo 2 a bit, right? Because that's when Rambo goes back to Vietnam.
Yes.
It's like,
so I think he knows exactly what he's doing. Right? He knows what he's doing with these choices he makes. And do they all work? No. Does it still make for an enjoyable ride, and does it make for a film that still holds the weight it's intended to hold? Yes.
No, yeah, I agree. All right, so The Five Bloods, one of the greats.
One of the greats.
Welcome to the Hall of Greats, where we'll forever stay. Before we get to our bet, though, which would be our next step, because I hear the music playing in the background. It's getting here, but I'm gonna have to pause it because we have to set up for our champion film, as we mentioned at the top of this show, that Gabriel will be championing the first ever film of the greatest movies of all time podcast. And in a second, when he's ready, we're gonna turn the podcast over to him for we're gonna say no more than 5 minutes, sir.
I won't even need 5 minutes.
All right, he says he doesn't need 5 minutes, so I'm not. JB, you can be the official timekeeper. You can keep an eye on it. I don't think we need to run the stopwatch. You can. I mean,
I'm gonna hand it off to one of the interns.
All right, because we charged the big 5-minute timer with the lights. We replaced the light bulbs, but I don't think we'll need it this time. But Gabriel, you'll have 5 minutes or less to kind of introduce your film. You should be able, for the listeners, it's the Corona age. We all Zoom, so you can share your screen with us so we can see your slide. We will be posting this to our various social medias. And in the show notes, you can click, or we'll put it in the show notes as well, I guess, his PowerPoint slide. And when you're ready, you'll get that going.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to share this with you guys.
You should be good to go now.
Literally,
I'm excited.
One of my favorite films, if not my favorite film of the last decade. And
So
I am championing Mad Max Fury Road.
there it is, folks.
Now, the reason why I think this is unquestionably one of the greats, it is an epic action film. It has some of the most insane set pieces ever set to film. George Miller's direction is masterful. He gets some incredible performances out of the cast of this film, despite the fact that so much of it is unspoken. There's so little dialogue when you think about the length of this film, right? And the amount that takes place, just this move, right? This movement of advancing character, advancing story, advancing plot, and so much of it is done with no dialogue. It is a masterpiece of feminist cinema. It is one of the strongest feminist films I have ever seen, in that the male lead is wholly dependent upon the strength of the female lead to be able to carry out whatever it is he's going to move forward, while simultaneously there are at least 7 women in this film who have names, and they never once speak of a man in their life who is offering them in. This film far exceeds the expectations or the minimal requirements of the Bechdel test. On top of that, with so little dialogue and so much action, this film manages to create commentary about gender, environmental policy, geopolitical policy. It is the most complex action film I have ever seen. And as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm able to speak to, it is the most complex action film ever set to film. And it is, in my mind, absolutely one of the greats.
Wow. Okay, thank you, listeners. We'll have the slide posted in the show notes, social media. You should see it. It's impressive, and I'm excited. JB, I'll let you speak in a sec. I tell you guys, I have not seen this film.
What?
So,
Are you serious?
I'm excited, but I'm dead serious. I've not seen it. I have not seen. All right, I've kind of seen 2 of the Mad Max films. They were marathoning them on Sundance Channel a couple weeks ago, actually, and I had them on in the background. So I'm excited. This is going to be. I have these notes. I have what I'm looking for. You've made a strong case.
2
So
words.
you did say you took a screen grab, and that's what you're going to post.
I'll have you send it to. We'll Slack it, and then we'll post it.
Got it.
Oh, don't let them know about the Slack.
Well, listen. Well, yeah, because the Slack is pretty full because we have that Patreon tier where you get access to the Slack, but it's a pricey tier, and there's
post recommendations.
Yeah, there's only so many spots
Ask
there.
questions.
So right now the Slack's full, but when another Patreon spot opens up, we'll get on the Slack.
Gotcha.
Yes, I've never seen it, so I'm excited. That'll be next week's film.
Wow.
JB, have you seen this film?
I have.
Okay.
The Doof Warrior, number 1.
I will.
Okay. All right.
I will preface it with this: you do not need to watch any of the other Mad Max films to enjoy this film.
I have.
I assumed you didn't need to. And I won't.
There's no need. I mean, those other Mad Max films are very good. There's no need to bring racist ass Mel Gibson back into the picture. Let's just jump off with the Tom Hardy.
I'm in. All right. So, listeners, join with us if you want. A rare time when the next movie. So, JB and I have some things to think about. I have something to watch and think about too.
God, I can't wait to watch the Doof Warrior again. That's one of my favorite movie characters.
All right. Let's transition. So, thank you. I gotta say,
I can't. I'm sorry. This movie is so fucking good.
We'll see.
There's no other expletive or qualifier that I can use to emphasize how good I think this film is.
I mean, this is interesting. As the first champion film, I was thinking about this, not to linger too much, but one could go any direction. Do you go with one, that's like your long shot? Do you go with one that, hey, I'm really passionate about this film? Do you go with, it's a lot to think about. So, as the first journeyman into that realm, I got to say, I also just enjoyed having a PowerPoint slide pop up on my screen and listening to you make its case for about 3 or 4 minutes.
I'm gonna go ahead and say you can watch this one of two ways.
Okay.
You can watch this in the cinematic version, or you can watch this in the black and chrome version. And either one, I think, will hold up and exceed any expectation you may go into this with. And I say that as I've just literally told you how great I think this film is, it will still exceed whatever expectations you have currently.
Man, all right, listeners, tune in next week to see where it lands, as one of the greats or not. So great. Moving on, let's bet. Let's get our game underway. Last week's was a pretty complicated role-playing improv adventure game with Wet Hot American Summer. If you missed it, it's there. We will not be taking you down that same road tonight, as our bets are always film-inspired. We're going to be doing a slight variation of our movie critic word search game, where we search through various critic reviews from Rotten Tomatoes and look for a certain keyword. But before we do, it's never that simple, because I'm incapable of keeping it that simple. We have a little bit of math to do, gentlemen. So either get your calculators handy, your pen or pencil.
We don't need those stinking calculators.
Well, I'm going to need one, because there's multiplication and division involved.
Oh, I've got pen and paper. I'm good.
All right, so I had a pen. I will find it. All right, I found the pen. Here's our bet. There was a key line in this film that popped out at me. And again, the bets, we always try to have fun. It's lighthearted. And luckily, the Five Bloods had a lot of lighthearted moments. There was a line near the end where one of the characters says, "The Five Bloods don't die, they multiply." And so this is where our math portion comes in. Here's what we'll be doing. Our first step, I just take us by the steps so it doesn't get too convoluted. We're going to be coming up with a final number at the end of our math problem. That final number will be used for our search in the movie reviews. So it's kind of out of our hands. Usually for listeners, they know, usually we just pick a number. How many times does this word appear? And we go. Not when we're multiplying the Five Bloods. So first step, we had the 5 actors who played the Five Bloods: Delroy Lindo, Clark Peters, Norman Lewis, Isaiah Whitlock, Chadwick Boseman. We are going to add up what we think. Boseman, sorry. We're going to add up their combined real-life ages, what we think they are. We saw all 5 on screen. We have 4 gentlemen who are playing Vietnam vets, is modern day, and then we have one from the time. But whatever their modern age is, we're going to add those up to get a total. And so just kind of start thinking about each character, picture them, and add up a number for all 5 of their ages. Taking some guesses.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get that number, are we all there with our number?
We're there, I think.
Give Gabriel a second. Kind of think about Delroy, Clark Peters, Norman Lewis. All right. Since the Five Bloods multiply, we're going to multiply that number by 5.
Oof.
Obviously, that's what they meant, right?
I that was all I could say. So now you have a new number. I would assume it's probably 4 digits, somewhere in the 1,000 plus. It's kind of thinking how math works.
All
right. Now the final math step is some division, and I did just now look up an age for Spike Lee. He is 63 years old.
Mhm.
We are going to divide your number by 63.
Okay.
And you'll
That
get
might
your
be
final
where I
number.
actually need a calculator.
That's where you might need a calculator. And listen, let's take this to the just the first decimal place.
Rounding up.
Got it.
And
Rounding.
well, you would round from the second decimal, right?
Just checking, keeping people
You,
honest.
you want to hear some unbelievable shit? No
Sure.
need to round. It came to a whole number.
Oh,
All right, so JB, you have your whole number. You have your number. Mine is a decimal.
mine was a decimal. Unfortunately, not a multiple of 63.
Okay, let's. I'm ready to. So that's right. So Gabriel had a multiple 63.
I think that's right. I'm going to double check.
Double check your math.
I think this podcast is rigged.
That's what all the emails say.
No, I'm right. I did solid math.
All right.
Wow, that's awesome.
All 5 ages combined, multiplied by 5, divided by Spike Lee, which is 63. And that my final number is 22.5. What does you gentlemen have?
25.
Ooh,
24.3.
24.3 and Gabriel's 25. Interesting. Okay. Now here's the point where we might edit a bit because of time, but maybe we don't have to. We're going to look up each person's age and do this math.
Oh, we got to do
ourselves
it
real
now?
quick. Yeah, I'm
All right.
pulling it up for us. I'll just run it through. Chadwick is 29 years old, which
Shoot.
Wait, is he?
according, no, I'm sorry, 42. I was like, yeah, 29 is young. He is 42. He's born on November 29th. That's why I saw the 29.
Okay, I was like, wow.
So I had him at 35.
He's
All right.
got a hell of a career for a 29-year-old.
I know. I had him at 35.
I had him somewhere around 40-ish.
All right. Delroy,
70-ish?
I put 71. He is
Like
67. 67. All right. And then let's see who else I got. Just have the name, the cast pulled up. Clark Peters. We're looking for him.
Clark Peters is right around 72. He's probably right about the same age as Delroy.
He is 68 years old. I'm looking. I'm
feeling good. I'm feeling good.
I'm not feeling great. Let's put up our next person, which is Norman Lewis, has popped up here.
He's the youngest of the older guys.
And he is 68 years old as well.
Norm
wow.
Lewis?
I'm sorry. I just clicked on Clark Peters, guys. Clark Peters is 68. Sorry. Thank you for. I got to do a lot here. You're right. Norm Lewis.
He's 57.
57.
Yeah, I had him somewhere 55 to 60.
I clicked on the wrong tab.
Okay,
It was still on Clark.
Still feeling good.
And then Whitlock is...
He's older than everyone else, guaranteed.
Whitlock is coming up. What does he got, JB? Tell us.
65.
65.
He just got his benefits.
Is he?
All right.
He's 65.
Yeah, 50. Yeah, born in 54.
According to
September.
Wikipedia, guys.
That's 70. 54 is 2020.
Yes.
He's over 70. Or he's almost 70.
No. 65.
54. You said 65.
Yes.
I thought you said 55.
No, 65.
65. I have 65.
My apologies.
So
Isaiah Whitlock.
Junior. Not Isaiah Whitlock.
Yes.
Isaiah Whitlock.
Yes.
Isaiah Whitlock Jr., born September 13th, 1954.
54, not 60s.
Age 65.
Yes.
Okay.
The interns are crunching the numbers.
You can hear them mashing away at the little calculators.
He'll be 66 in September.
13th,
Right,
I guess.
So when I add up all 5 of those ages and multiply by 5, we get 1,495. We divide that by Spike Lee, which brings us to 23.7.
Over.
Making JB the closest.
But I'm over.
So, now this is part 2 of the bet. Over, it's always closest in most of these things. So wait, yeah, because I have 22.5. Wait.
I'm
0.6 away.
Yeah, get JB's 0.6.
I'm 1.7.
You're 1.7.
Oh, but there's
Is
another
this our
part to the
handicap?
bet.
It's like golf.
And I am 1.2.
And there's more to this bet?
I didn't,
Oof.
guys. I didn't think we'd be this close. All right, there's more to this bet. JB,
Shoot.
you're in the driver's seat here.
Skirt.
You are going to pick, and this is your secret alone.
Okay.
We'll write this down and say,
All right.
you will decide if
Okay.
we're going to be looking at 1 through 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 reviews, right? For the word gold.
Okay.
But we're all still going to pick how many golds we'll find, how many gold bars we will find.
And then
in
are
these reviews.
we handicapped by our prior?
The only thing we're handicapped by is JB's choice. We don't know the number of reviews we're going to be looking for.
Right. Okay.
Are we going to be looking for at 5 reviews?
Mm.
Or
So I have an advantage.
yes, a big advantage.
Wow. This feels nice.
I know. All right. So, Gabriel and I just have to say how many gold bars we're going to find. Pick a number 1 to whatever. Or 0 could be a number.
Oh, before he tells us how
He's
many.
not going to tell us.
Oh, all right.
Yikes.
So we're playing. I'm staring at JB now. We're playing a psychological game. Is he going to go high? Is he going to go low?
What if I just turn off the video?
That would be more revealing than you realize.
Oh, shit, you're right.
The number that you're thinking, this is how Zoom works. The number you're thinking, if you just turn off the video, it automatically pops up on the screen.
It might.
It's the headset. It's
Zoom
actually
knows
got.
what you're thinking, JB.
It's actually got electrodes in this headset measuring.
Right.
All right, I got my number. So
I got
JB,
my number too.
what we'll need from you is your number of gold bars, but also how many reviews are we going to look at? And we're just going to go from Rotten Tomatoes top critic reviews from 1 to 5.
All right. I'm going to tell you the number of gold bars first, and I want you to guess how many reviews.
All right. Well, let's all show our number of gold bars we're looking for. I'm looking for 3.
I'm looking for 3 too.
Oh, okay.
I put 14.
Oh,
14. Oh, wow. Jesus. All right.
So
I'm trying to get rich.
You're going
5. Are you going 5 reviews?
I'm going for 4.
Okay.
4. All right. I guess you're hoping they reference those gold bars a lot.
Yeah.
See,
At least 3 times per review.
All right. See,
I didn't think this through.
What I was thinking in this bet was that they might mention the gold, but then they might also mention like, oh, this is Spike Lee's hits gold or strikes gold or.
But gold bars is what we're looking for, though.
No,
right?
just gold. The word gold.
Oh. Well,
yeah, gold.
Jesus.
Yeah,
all right.
we got it. But look, we're
all
still
right.
at 3.
Whatever.
This is JB's win, regardless.
I didn't
we're
think.
Out.
I don't know.
No, we could be close, and then we'll have to do a runoff.
Yeah.
I just constantly.
could be far enough away.
I looked at it as the gold bars were all.
I'm sorry, I was speaking kind of like figuratively, like we're hunting on the mountainside for gold.
Almost just a plot device, right?
Yeah.
So unimportant to the overarching story. But
all right, so JB wants 4 reviews. He needs to get. Listen,
they have to average 3.25 golds. Oh man,
Gabriel, we might be in this for a tiebreaker. The first review comes from theage.com. Again, I just went to.
Oh, it's Australian.
Rotten Tomatoes. I think top critics. The headline: Spike Lee's Vietnam drama suffers from overkill. So did not enjoy the film. Maybe.
Did they like the
gold? Shows up one time. A stash of gold bars. There you go, Gabriel. It even says gold bars. 1 gold.
I'm just hoping someone loves alliteration in the word gold.
All right. Review number 2 comes from the Standard. What is this? London Standard. I can't see my thing here. London Indoors. It's standard.ck.uk. Spike Lee's flashback to Vietnam will make you want to take to the streets is the headline. Gold shows up once in the sentence.
Oh, God.
After a chest of gold.
Oh, God.
So that's 2 golds. 2 more reviews to go.
I need 12.
Returning to real views. REEL views. How many times do they use the word gold? There's no headline.
Come on, real.
I have Again, 1 gold. So we're at 3.
Oh,
Like in our plot summary, we used the word gold.
Yep, a trunk of CIA gold bars. Again, a little disappointed that no one's gone the route of including the word gold in their headline.
And their reference to Spike Lee's
in his masterpiece
ownership of. I mean, I feel like,
Listen, if I'm writing a review for The Five Bloods, the first thing I say is Spike Lee strikes gold.
Black Klansman is fantastic, but it's very much tied to and anchored to this almost biopic, like documentary piece.
Yeah.
And this is very freewheeling. And so biopics, they lend themselves to tight narratives, precision, direction. This is this loose, freewheeling kind of thing, and it's so much fun.
All right, our final review to get this back because people are waiting. They're excited. Salon.com.
They're waiting.
With the
9 goals.
With The Five Bloods, Spike Lee triumphantly reflects with Black experience on the Vietnam War. The word gold is used, Control F, one time, their coveted mission to retrieve a trunk of misplaced gold bars.
Shit.
So we have 4. We have a tie. We have to solve this. The spec gets more complicated. JB, I'm going to throw this to you as the initial person with the advantage that just squandered and spoiled.
Let's not remind everyone.
Really, all you had to do was say 4.
Yeah. Well, listen, you had a mind game. And listen, that's the JB mind games there. We'll realize what you were doing, 4 episodes down the road. The pure genius.
I hope so. Man, I do hope so.
So I'm going to throw this in your court to keep, again, people write to us about integrity every episode at greatestmoviespodcast.com or gmail.com.
There's a lot of paper used in these episodes. Yeah, just so everyone knows, full transparency, there's a lot of paper.
All right. So JB, I say let's run. Typically we did have a tie as well when we did the movie word search for the Lighthouse, the fart versus flatulence game, and we had to go to an extra review. For this one, I say let's go to 2 more. We have the New Yorker and the Entertainment Weekly next in line, but JB will pick the word because we can't keep going because we're stuck at 3.
That's okay. That was my next question. It was like, how do we do
it? So JB, in an unprecedented event, I'm turning over the bet decision.
You're losing the reins. You're relinquishing the reins.
But you know what? When we're in these moments, we have to do it. So
that's true.
You know how the game works. We're finding a word. What's the word Gabriel and I will be hunting for in our next?
And how many reviews are we?
We're only going to look at 2, and that's why I'm kind of giving 2. JB normally
2. All right.
Normally
2.
I just think of the word first and we just go on, but it might help him knowing that we're dealing with the New Yorker and Entertainment Weekly. I don't know the headlines.
Ooh.
All I can see is they both got fresh ratings. That's all I can see on my end.
Interesting. I'm familiar with both these publications. I have read them.
All right. So what word will we be looking for, JB?
All right. Are you ready?
Yeah, we're ready to write down our answer.
Looking for the word America.
Ooh.
Man, wow.
You picked a good word.
You did.
Holy crap, JB.
2 reviews.
2 reviews.
1 film. America.
Clarification, is it just America? Are we saying American?
Yes, so America and American both count.
So we'll be searching for America.
Yeah, the Control F we'll
search America.
That's right.
But if an American shows up, we're keeping it. Okay, that helps.
Yes.
All right. Oof.
It's tough.
Yeah.
I'm wavering back and forth between 2 numbers, and I don't want to go even number. I want to go odd number.
And we're in the same thought house here.
We probably have the same two numbers in our heads. I feel like that's where we are. We're on that wavelength.
2 reviews.
So do I need to just?
Or you could be playing a mind game. You've been going even the whole time. You just want me to write down an odd number. I get it.
I am.
Play nice.
If nothing else, I'm honest.
No, integrity, guys. Integrity. We're all about integrity.
That's right. It's spicy and sweet.
Let's see.
Delicious.
Man. All right, I'm thinking. I was going an odd number as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've scribbled it out. I'm going back. I'm thinking about our Entertainment Weekly New Yorker.
We got 15 seconds left.
No, I don't think so.
I'm committed.
Oh,
I've committed.
Wonderful. Jesse, you good?
I'm back in. You go with your gut in this game. In the years I've been playing our betting games, I never fail when I go with my gut. All right, I got my number.
All right.
Man.
Here we go. I'm saying 5.
9.
9. Whew. Okay. All right, we got different numbers.
All right. So I was 9 and 7. Were you 5 and 7?
I was 5 and 7.
Oh man, yeah. I was like, oof. 2. I feel like 7's probably good, but I feel like he's thinking 7. So I'm just gonna ramp it up.
It's funny. I was thinking 5 and 7, but I wrote 5 down both times.
So we're searching America, which can include America and American.
Whatever comes up, yeah, America.
Yes.
JB,
Are we including misappropriations of spellings that include a K in place of the C or triple Ks in place of the C?
Listen, I don't think this is even going to matter. Pulling up the New Yorker right now. Spike Lee's The Five Bloods reviewed Vietnam and the never-ending war of being black in America.
America.
If you simply put America in Control F, we get 11 in the New Yorker, which means, and it's America, American history, American heroism, American atrocities, American activists, Americans. That's 11 and they're all American soldiers used twice in the New Yorker.
I'm right back in the running for the next opportunity.
Mainstream media. More appropriately, more journalism, entertainment, and American civil
I was
rights.
one away with 14.
So regardless, that gives Gabriel the win.
Had we gotten to this and had the ask been America,
yeah,
JB, I mean, you would have crushed it.
My mind was just ahead of the game.
Gold.
Good.
Less
pick.
important than America in this scenario.
Pick. Well, I was trying to play on the game like, hey, we're going to go hunt for goals like these guys in the film. We're going to.
No, it's a good pick.
But hey, it made the tiebreaker all the more
It was fun,
inventive and fun. So congratulations, Gabriel. That gives you no need to save a film from being the great, because the Five Bloods is a great. But that does give you tonight's last word, and you're back on the board with a point. 2 points for me, 1 for JB, 1 for you. And we'll turn it over to you to wrap up this podcast.
Last word. I mean, what do I say? Like, there's already been so much that we've said. I think there are a lot of really strong films in Spike Lee's filmography. One of my personal favorites is probably one of his least well-reviewed films, and it's Bamboozled. And Bamboozled, to me, is possibly the single greatest work of satire in the last 30 years of film. It's misunderstood, it's misappropriated, and it is misrepresented in the way that people interpreted that film. I think that's a film worth a second watch. It's worth a watch through a lens of understanding, through a lens of equality, through a lens of equity. Look, put it on your watch list. Find a way to see it. I don't know if it's streaming, but take the time to watch Bamboozled and understand how the audacity of asking a black actor to put on blackface to perform a role as a black man in a film to call question too the absurdity of Hollywood and society in the way that they ask, nay, in the way that we ask Blacks to conform and contort themselves to fit the neat role models and molds that we've created. Bamboozle is a fantastic film. The Five Bloods is one of the greats. Malcolm X is one of the greats. Spike Lee potentially has a handful of other films that can be considered one of the greats. That's what I'm going to leave you with. That's where I stand on this. I'm out.
All right. Thank you for that. And thank you, everybody. JB, Gabriel, thanks for talking and watching movies with me.
Always a pleasure.
Feels great to be anointed.
Let's do it again.
All right. Fury Road next week.